Hi, welcome back. This is Cindy with Affaircare, and I'm continuing on our little series about our basic concepts. We're doing this series as a way of introducing our new program that's going to come out October 1st. It's called 90 Days to Save Your Marriage and Save You. So this whole month we've been going over the basic concepts here at Affaircare, and if you are unfamiliar with any of our terms or some of our basic thoughts, I would invite you to read or to listen to our very first podcast. It's called Intro Basic Concepts. But to just summarize, here at Affaircare we think of love as a campfire. The love in your marriage, it can be, it can blaze and be hot. There are actions you can take which will add to the fire and make it grow. These actions, we call them love kindlers because they kindle the fire. And we also use the term that if you're doing a love kindler, this is a commitment. So we might call it family commitment or physical commitment. And that means you're honoring the commitment that you made when you got married. On the other hand, there are actions that you can take that will put out the fire of love, and we call those extinguishers because you're extinguishing the fire. Obviously, an affair would be a gigantic extinguisher and probably pretty much put out the fire almost all the way, right away, the first shot, in one shot. So we call extinguishers, that terminology there is neglect, because you're neglecting the commitment that you made when you got married. So this terminology is our our love kindlers and our love extinguishers. Now this week we're going over the things that you can do, the steps you can take, so to speak, to end an affair. So if your spouse, if you suspect, or if your spouse is in the middle of an affair and they're it's ongoing, we're at right now at this moment, here are some things that you can do to stop the affair. And we'll be going over these probably the rest of this week and maybe a little bit at the beginning of next week, and then we're going to be going into the final week of the month. We're going to be going over the steps to reconcile after the affair is ended. So yesterday we talked about the very first thing that you can do, which is gather evidence. This was just you have that nagging feeling that something is wrong, but you're not positive. So yesterday I went over the ways that you could just keep an open mind and gather evidence so that you can find whatever the truth may be. Now, you may prove your theory that they are being unfaithful, but it may be that you will look at the evidence and discover that no, it's just kind of a weird time in their life, maybe a midlife crisis of some sort, but it's not an affair. So keep an open mind when you're doing the first step, if you will, that first part, and just look to whatever the truth may be. Just say, look, whatever it is, I don't care, I'm going to pursue till I find the truth. There you go. That's the first thing. And then today we're going to be going over the next one, the next, and actually it's three actions that you do, like one right after the other, so I'm putting them together as one. However, yesterday I did not comment on, and I kind of want to make sure to add in there, that one of the things that's pretty typical of people when they suspect, sometimes people will feel like this pressure, to do something right now. I must do something right now, or want to save it right now, whatever, And I want to encourage you that it is okay. There's the first pre-step always is there's not a rush. What you want to do is take some time to catch your breath, to think clearly before you make any decision. Stop and make sure that you're like, okay, I'm able to think and make a wise choice, rather than like reacting from emotion. Because this shock is so big that if you react from emotion, the temptation is to do something extremely drastic and radical. So please bear that in mind. That's one of the things that I recommend to people. Take your time. There's not a rush that you have to decide your whole future today. Another couple of little, I call them empathy things I'd like to remind people to do. What almost everyone that discovers their spouse is having an affair, they have what they call the affair diet, because you stop eating, you can't eat, and so you lose like 20 pounds, which is not in a week, and it's good for you but bad for you. You know what I mean? You need to continue to take care of certain things around the house, but usually you need to continue to take care of your children, your family, continue to go to work, things like that, that like even as life is going on, you just need to continue to work, right? So you need to continue to provide for your family, to take care of your children, and they need you to be strong. So on an empathy level, I do suggest to people, go out and buy some soup, or like ramen noodles, or something that you can just choke a little bit of something down. It will get you through being able to sort of get through this. And the other little sympathy thing that I always suggest to people, and it's silly, but it just is really true, is to buy lotion tissue. If you get Kleenex and it's not lotion, when you cry and cry. Well, actually, it's like harsh paper, and it will scrape on your eyelids, and if you're blowing your nose, it'll scrape your... Pretty soon you'll have, not only are you crying, which is kind of salty, but it's also chapped. So then it gets even worse, and it hurts badly. I know that's the silliest thing, isn't it? But if you're really crying, and this is one of those times when you probably will be really crying a lot, get lotion tissues. Take care of yourself. They'll do those two little empathy things to take care of yourself a little bit while we're trying to get through this. Okay, so let's get into the step I wanted to talk about today. As I mentioned, it's kind of 3 steps. I call it CDE, and those 3 steps stand for confront, disclose, and expose. Let's start with confront. Okay, once you've done your investigation and you have you've gathered some evidence, and you are convinced that there is an emotional or a physical affair, and it's not just you making a mountain out of a molehill, it's not just you being a jealous person, then the next thing to do is we base this off of Matthew, I believe it's Matthew 18, where the first thing you do is, if a brother sins against you, you go directly to them and talk to them about it. So we apply that here, that you would go straight to your disloyal. You sort of pick the time when it's right, when you have enough evidence with you that it's something you can put right in front of you, but it's not all the evidence you have, but it's enough that it's going to be convicting, if you know what I mean. And you tell them to their face that you know about the affair, and you have evidence beyond this in a safe place, but this proves it irrefutably, and you're not here to talk to them about, I'm confronting you with this, and I'm going to ask you to stop. You don't tell them necessarily where your evidence is hidden or anything. Just say, I have additional evidence, it's in a safe place, but I'm showing you this because I want you to know that I know. Does that make sense? Then state right out loud that in order for your marriage to work, that there cannot be infidelity, and ask them point blank to end their affair right now. Just to be clear, you might continue on and say that, and you want to bring up the things that ending the affair means that they could never, ever contact the other person again. Ever. Okay? And that they agree to be accountable for their time by doing things like sharing passwords to their various accounts, to their emails, Facebook, whatever. Whatever the thing was that they were using, to communicate with the other person, that has to be a shared thing. Now, it has to be transparent. From this point forward, they need to be transparent in the marriage. And transparent means see-through. Like, I'm going to let you see through to the real me, to what I'm really doing, to you know what I mean, my real thoughts, my real feelings. I'm going to let you see through that. So you're going to ask them to do that, and likewise you will do that for them. Now, on the occasion, there is a disloyal spouse that will, right then, they will just fall apart, and once they are discovered, they were kind of looking for a way to get out. Now they've been discovered, and it's like a relief, and they agree to quit. That occasionally happens. It's not utterly often, but sometimes. And I would say, it does happen, but it's not utterly rare, but it's not utterly usual either. Let's just say. So if that does happen for you, oddly enough, consider yourself blessed, and go ahead to moving to recovery. But if it doesn't, then the next part I would suggest is the D, disclose. So after you have confronted your disloyal spouse, if you look at Matthew 18, it says you confront your brother, and then if that doesn't work, you speak with, I think it says, one or two others. Well, this is that portion of the verse. We want you to disclose to one or two people that are going to make a difference. They mean something to your disloyal spouse. Maybe somebody they look up to, a mentor or a parent. And ask those people if they will help you speak to your spouse and whatnot. So anyway, so you've confronted your disloyal spouse and asked them to end it. And they either refuse to do so or just have not done so. You know how sometimes they will deflect your direct question. Maybe they take it underground, that kind of thing. So they haven't done it. So what you do is you disclose it to, I usually recommend one really respected authority, but sometimes it's two, such as, both of their parents, their mother and dad. Okay? But you pick somebody who's like somebody they highly respect, that they are likely to look up to, maybe somebody they would listen to, someone who is going to be pro-marriage, and not, there's enough voices in their head right now saying, you deserve to be happy, you've been giving to everybody, when are you going to give to you? There's enough of those voices. They need the voices that are, I'm so disappointed in you, I raised you better than this. They need the people who are going to tell them it is not okay to commit adultery just because you are unhappy at the moment. So make choices in your marriage that will make you happy. That kind of voice, okay? So you look for that person. Sometimes, I will give you some examples, sometimes it is their parents. Sometimes it's a pastor or a religious leader, your minister. Obviously, we're Christians, so we tend to go with your, pastors and ministers. But if that's not where you're not a Christian, you can try your rabbi or whatever religious leader. Sometimes it's a teacher or a boss, because you know how sometimes maybe there's a disconnect in the family, and the person isn't, your spouse isn't particularly religious. Well, maybe their boss is like their really big mentor, and they really look up to them. And the boss is all pro-marriage, and okay, cool. Have the boss talk to them. So anyways, you meet with the one person, the authority person, in confidence, and you explain to them what's going on. Maybe present them, again, some of the evidence, but you don't have to show them everything. Ask them for help. Give them the facts as best as you can without being judgmental. Just make it as factual as you can, so that you're not bad talking your spouse. And then ask them for help, or if they could give you any support that they can offer to encourage your disloyal spouse to end the affair and come home. A lot of times it just takes somebody they sort of respect to say to them, hey, this is not cool. Stop it and go home. The idea here is to keep this to one specific person, or the two. That's kind of wise. And we want to keep the potential embarrassment minimized, even though it's not, it's their actions that would be embarrassing to them, not you talking to someone else. And you want to get somebody that they kind of trust and respect, who would encourage them to end the affair and do the right thing. Okay? On the occasion, there's a disloyal spouse that will listen to this person that they trust. They'll hear the wisdom of it and end their affair. Again, it's not real likely, but on the occasion it does happen. And so we want to take the correct steps, and I would say if this is your case, consider yourself blessed, and again, move to recovering your marriage. If it's not the case, then you'd move to this next one, this last one, which is actually one that's pretty misunderstood. And the next part of the steps is step 4, exposure. So, when someone that your disloyal spouse respects has spoken to them about the affair and encouraged them to end it, but they still, they harden their heart and they're not listening and they refuse to do it, maybe they're getting stubborn, the next step is to expose the affair to those who are likely to be affected by a potential divorce. The idea behind exposure is not to drag your disloyal spouse's name through the mud or ruin their reputation, or vengeance even. And a lot of times people hesitate to do exposure because they think that, my spouse will be mad, or I'll be hanging out our dirty laundry. But I want to encourage you that in real life, what's happening here is that it's their actions, their choice to commit adultery, that would be what's ruining their reputation. It's not you telling the truth to people. Telling the truth is the truth, and that's okay. And also, just a note, exposure is not vengeance, although it's accused to be that, because what it is like shining the light of truth on this secret. Okay? So refuse to keep the affair a secret and bring the ugly truth to light. It is ugly that they are being unfaithful, but deal with the truth. Face it head on, okay? Now, in many ways, an affair can be like an addiction, in that in their disloyal, in their kind of cloudy way of thinking, they would be thinking like, oh, yes, that's true, we might be disrupting my life and my husband's life, and your life and your wife's life, but don't I deserve some happiness too? But what they don't realize is that divorce does affect a lot more than just the 4 spouses. In real life, it has this ever widening effect, like the ripples on a pond when you throw the rock in. It can possibly affect hundreds of people, because right in the circle is the 4, but then there's the children, there's their families, the grandmas and grandpas, aunts, uncles and cousins, all their friends, people at school, at work. It goes on and on. So, for this step, there has to be a focus to the exposure. We don't encourage people to just broadcast it all over the world. You want to contact people who are likely to be affected if there is a potential divorce. Excuse me. You might contact your own parents, your own siblings, and the reason for contacting them would be to inform them there could be a divorce and ask for their support to help you get through this time. You would contact the disloyal's parents and siblings for the same reasons, to let them know there could be a divorce because of your spouse's affair, and call it adultery. Don't call it, they have a friendship with somebody. No. They are committing adultery. So call it what it is and let their parents know and the siblings know. You might contact your church or your place of worship. And if it is an affair that's taking place at work, you might contact the disloyal spouse's employer to let them know that work resources are being used for like sexual advancement type stuff. You know what I mean? They need to know that the work phone is being used for that kind of thing instead of being used for work, and they will probably put a stop to that. Likewise, you might want to let your own employer know, because chances are pretty good that your productivity is going to plummet, because you'll be so upset about the affair that it's hard to concentrate, and your emotions are kind of up and down, and you might feel sick or not sick. You might have to go to court or not court. So let your employer know. Sometimes they can help you get through it, or if it give you some vacation time, or at the very least be a little bit more understanding why you're kind of wigging out. So just let them know. And then when you do contact people, what I suggest is don't do them all at one fell swoop at once. So you're going to get everybody at once. Your parents and siblings, their parents and siblings, the pastor, the elders, your employer, and their employer if it is a work affair. If it's not a work affair, there's no point in telling their employer, because it's not involved in a divorce. You understand what I mean? And then the last people you may want to consider would be any lifelong friends that your spouse has that are pro-marriage, that are going to be talking good sense into their ear. It's conceivable they might be able to help as well. So you get everyone in one fell swoop, and what you inform them is that your spouse is having an affair, that it's serious, that the marriage is in deep trouble, and that you're asking for help. That's it. You don't have to give them all kinds of details. You don't have to drag people's names through the mud. You're just stating, here is what is occurring. You do this for a couple of reasons. One, if you don't, I guarantee you your disloyal spouse will start to weave a web of that you were abusive and they had to go. And you want to let people know the truth of the situation before it turns into why you were such an abuser. Second, you want to let, you cannot control how they may or may not react to an affair. You'll be surprised, some parents are not going to say, hey, get back to your marriage. Some parents are going to say, well, you're my child, I think it's a mistake, but I love you and will support you no matter what you choose. Blah, 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 blah. They're kind of weaking out on it, but that's their choice. But they do need to know that something their child is doing could potentially lose them half their time or more with their grandchildren. So they need to be informed. Give them the facts. Be as factual as you can. Some may ask to see some evidence. Show them some, but you don't need to show them all. And then again, the reason of doing this is asking them for help to either support you or help your disloyal to encourage them to return to the marriage. Now, just so you know, your spouse is likely to be extremely angry when you expose their affair. This is because, just like a drug addict, when you go and say out loud, so-and-so's a drug addict, they get kind of pissed about it. They want to keep it a secret. They want to keep it hidden. And affairs are more fun when it's a clandestine rendezvous than when it's brought out to the light as the adultery that it is. Okay? So, A, they're going to be mad about that. They can't continue to lie and pretend anymore that they are okay. You know what I mean? And then B, you're trying to cut off their drug that they're addicted to, which is the zing of the affair. Okay? So, it's like they're going to react like a drug addict when you're trying to cut them off from their dealer. They're going to be pissed. But just like a time like that where you would just endure the fury of the addicted friend in order to, in an intervention, in order to save their life and get them off the drugs, same here. Your marriage can survive anger. Your marriage, any marriage, can survive one spouse being angry. But no marriage can survive ongoing adultery. So this is a somewhat drastic step, but it's necessary to have the best chance to end the affair as quickly as possible. You want to stop it. Okay? Now, on the occasion, there's a disloyal spouse who realizes that everyone knows about the affair, their whole family knows about it, and is kind of on the side of ending the affair. The other person's spouse knows about it now and is screaming and telling them to put a stop to it, and their other person throws them under the bus, and they realize that the person never loved them in the first place, and the affair gets killed. This is ideal. Now, it's kind of painful, but I'm just saying the affair is dead. Good. If this is the case, consider yourself blessed, and then move right on to the phase of recovering your marriage. But if it's not, then we will go over the next thing that you can do tomorrow, which is called carrot and stick. So this is a lot of ground to cover. CDE. Confront, disclose, expose. But, and these are also hard steps to take. But I will encourage you that these are often steps that will, I would say, in my experience, probably more than half the time, probably about 75% of the time, will end the affair. So if you have the courage, I'm just saying, gather your courage up and do these steps. It is your best chance to save your marriage if you can gather your courage and do these steps. So again, thanks for sticking it out with us. Tomorrow we'll talk about the next thing if you need to go to another step. And then we'll end the week or the month next week with how to reconcile once the affair is ended. So stick with us. We're almost to the end, and we will see you back hopefully tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.